Thank you all very much. This is, you know, I had to put my glasses on because I needed to see your beautiful faces. Thank you for showing up, for yourselves, for our children, as my daughter will refer to as our future ancestors. Thank you for showing up for Mother Earth. We so desperately need to come together today. So I am so grateful. Thank you, Lori, for reaching out and asking that we join you today. Renee, did you want to sit for a moment? Or do you want to stand? Sit. So my name is Alicia Fall, and I am Eastern Band Sarigi, Cherokee on my mother's side. I am also Dutch and Dane from her side. And I am Cuban Taino and Spanish from my father's side. So I make for a good mutt, I would say, right? Yeah. And I think for the majority of us, we are probably mutts. And grateful for the family that I grew up in, because they have made me the person that I am today. That was my environment that created every bit of who I am. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? I'm also the founder and vision holder for Her Many Voices Foundation. We provide, thank you, we provide practical education and resources for women and children in underserved communities. We work predominantly with Indigenous peoples. And we also address issues concerning Mother Earth. I speak internationally on the topic of hemp and humanity at many climate change conferences. As a matter of fact, well, we started here in Colorado, and then we, almost 15 years ago, in March it'll be 15 years. And then we expanded to New York. New York City I am a born and raised New Yorker. I did not grow up on the res, I grew up a city kid. Thank you, New York, yes. We gotta represent. I've met so many people from Texas here. Woo! What is with that?
Everything's bigger in Texas.
This is true, and arts are very big in Texas. Especially the Texas women are finding. They have supported us greatly over the years. So I have expanded. We opened up an office in New York City, and then recently I am now officially a resident of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. So we're expanding there. And my intent with this move, in part, is to reach out to the Sami community. How many of you, I have to stand. How many of you know who the Sami people are? Okay, good, we've got a handful. For those who are not aware, the Sami people are the indigenous peoples of the region of, they go through Russia, Finland, Norway, and that whole northern region in the EU area, right? So although the Netherlands, they don't have the indigenous peoples there, but we have a lot of indigenous representation within Amsterdam. So it seemed like a natural move for me to go there, and I need to get in touch with my Dutch roots as well. So I just made that move just a few weeks ago. And I'm looking forward to getting back home again after this. And I have so many wonderful stories and these interactions that I've met with so many different people that I get to share with the folks there. We do a lot of work in that area on climate issues. So when I told them that I was invited to the Children in Nature Network, they were very excited to hear more. And they got even a little bit more excited when I explained, yes, it's Children in Nature Network, but we're working with 18 to 30-year-old leaders, global leaders, who are working on behalf of Mother Earth. And that really sparked their interest. So the other thing is, I am grateful that I get to be called mom by two beautiful warrior daughters of mine, Melissa Ivy and Shanoa Francis. You will meet both of them. Yes, Renee, we can applaud for them. You'll meet both of them. Melissa's going to be doing some artworks with Kaminuhulu. I think you guys are scheduled tomorrow. Is that it? Today and tomorrow. And I understand that there was a move of the location of where.
Or like when the afternoon sessions close, so around 4:45. out on the deck this year in California. So we gathered this year.
Did you all hear that?
I can say it again later.
Okay, all right, so there's a little move there. And with Shanoa, she not only helps to represent her many voices, she sits on our board and she's our youth member on our board, but she also represents Spirit of the Sun. And with that representation, she has come here with seeds and seedlings and what else, honey?
Brochures.
And brochures and all of that fun stuff. So,
Love.
and love, lots of love. Go see my girls, they got a lot of love to give. Yeah. So a lot of the joy that I have in particular for this event is the fact that I have my family here. I have my girls here. I have my brothers here. I have my nephews. I have my nieces here. And this woman, my niece Renée, she is a powerhouse. You will get that in a couple of minutes here. I will tell you that she brings a power and joy and spirit, and she is a movement, a force to be reckoned with. She can share part of that in a moment. And I would say, I would like to introduce my future president, Renée Chacon.
Ay. Claso kamati umato, claso kamati atatonati, claso kamati tonanti gleli, claso kamati abuelitos y abuelitas and all the ones that came before. Right now we are in the land of the Ute, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, the Shoshone, the Kiowa, the Comanche, the Lakota, the Dene, the Apache, the Chicano, and 48 tribes that still live and travel through this space. This is not a land acknowledgement. This is legitimately a space for you to make room, for you to learn what lands you reside on. They are still on stolen land and still on stolen resources.
Say that, boo.
I deal with issues with land access every single day. And if it wasn't an issue, my communities wouldn't be dying right now. I am mixed Indigenous and Renée, Chicana, and Filipina. My ancestors met in southern Colorado and New Mexico, and I could exist nowhere else. I am grateful for all the women that came before. I am grateful for all the men that came before. I'm grateful for all the youth that came before. I'm grateful for the elders that came before. I'm grateful for my living biosphere, and I fight for it every day. I am not a politician. I'm a mother of 2 sons, Sunny and Zeke, Cotlotli and Neheca. I am a woman in Danza Azteca, so we call it a Popo Siwa or the Popo Shkomero. So I'm allowed to hold the smoke. I'm only allowed to speak for the communities I'm allowed to speak for. We are not a monolith. There are 48 tribes in Adams County alone where I live. I do not speak for all of them, and nor should I. So most of all, please do not tokenize BIPOC, people of color, and most of all, Indigenous communities. We want to be able to speak for ourselves because we have been able to survive genocide and still do to this day. I do this most of all because I love you. I love my water, and I love my land very deeply. I actually came from a council meeting that lasted until 1:30 last night in Commerce City. They normally only go until about 11. My answer was still no for 2 hours, and it didn't change. And that's the kind of person that I am. I've been raised by a really strong community. I have already buried 2 of my siblings because of substance abuse and missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. And right now I work in political spheres, specifically involving missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. We helped pass with the task force here 2 bills because it took that long just to be recognized in the response for law enforcement. And we work in the Environmental Justice Action Task Force. I'm co-commissioner for the equity analysis of cumulative impacts. That means I have to tell you what is in our land, our water, and our communities just to be able to be called a human being. I deal with benzene, hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen sulfide. These were once used in gas chambers. Our community smells this every day. My uncle is Chief Tomas Lopez that actually lives off of Dahlia. We will still walk out of our sweat lodges and our teepees to this day and have yellow dust on our cars, and that's just gray. That's where my auntie, water woman Sharon Dominguez, lives. We also live in Rocky Mountain Arsenal, which has so many forms of cumulative impacts. It has a poisonous plume underneath it. It has a buffalo herd on top of it, and it has a fracking well about adjacent to it. Not to mention a 50% population boom in the last 5 years alone. Guess what color most of those communities are? That's the type of reality I have to live in every day. So we actually, my prima, my friend, my sister, Micaela Ironshell Dominguez, who will be here for the youth cohort this afternoon. She's on her way a little bit late with the baby because we're never on time. Is the other co-founder. We started Women from the Mountain. She hates me saying it, but she won a Human Rights Award for her work at Standing Rock, the International Indigenous Youth Council of Standing Rock. And when she came to visit me in San Diego, we had just done, it ended up being 2,500, so 2,000 veterans to Veteran Support of Standing Rock at the time. And we just wanted to come and meet and get to know each other because I actually never seen her in person for like 5 years since we were kids. So she was able to come down and we met and we immediately fell in love when we talked about environmental justice and what we wanted to do. So we started Women from the Mountain, and Women from the Mountain legitimately started as a space to have our own equity. And what I mean by that is closed circles of cultural responsiveness and trauma sensitivity that is for no one else. We need to be able to move through conflicts in our community. We need to be able to resolve issues that we talk about it as cumulative impacts, but they're forms of trauma. The very institutions we go to every day are traumatizing. We don't have access to healthcare. We legitimately are losing our elders every day. COVID is still happening, and it was one of the most severe pandemics still that has robbed our languages. So we wanted to be able to find just circles that we could start, and it started with making ribbon skirts, talking about femme identity, talking about missing and murdered Indigenous relatives, being able to spread that. So we started congregating and making marches, and when I moved back to Colorado, my brother had actually passed away. He was homeless for years, and he was dead for 4 hours on Skid Row. So our very last day with my husband in the Navy was my very first day, was his funeral back in Colorado. And that's when I started that I realized this is real. We legitimately have to help our communities like today. So we started working out of Globeville, we started working out of Aurora, we started working out of Commerce City, just creating small circles out of our own pocket. We did not have an interest in starting as a nonprofit. We just wanted to make safe spaces for our communities. And it grew into a nonprofit. We got picked up by March On. Honestly, we got picked up by March On because we were targeted so many times. We were targeted from our IG campaigns, everything would be erased. We were targeted from the Denver police when we did 700 dresses down 16th Street, paid for all the permits, did the Greta Thunberg march, had over 7,000 people do the march. They ripped down every one of our dresses and then tried to say it was transients. We ended up finding the dresses, they were mostly in dumpsters. Every one of those dresses were smudged off. Every one of those dresses were from ages 6 months to 60 from as many people as we can find from North and South America, from Canada to Mexico, that we put a name on. Those were prayers, those weren't just dresses. So we kept getting more and more attention the more we were getting targeted. So we started going into the environmental justice spaces and challenging the governor, talking about sun poor. Really sun poor, sun down, which was specifically with Cultivando and yes, Spirit of the Sun, where we were able to talk about, from Indigenous communities' perspectives, restorative justice. What does it look like? What we mean by that is land back, but not land back just to give to Indigenous communities. That is to give to Indigenous communities because we have one of the oldest forms of scientific knowledge to heal the issues that we are in right now, which ultimately means giving land back to itself. So I fight for that type of aspect every single day. I did not mean to win Commerce City Council. I went for it twice. I actually lost, and they ended up finding out the guy was corrupt in his funding. He had to step down. I joined this past January as an incumbent, and I won by 1 vote, the mayor's vote. If I'll ever stay in this space again, because I don't really like politics. But I will fight for my communities if it means being in that space, because that's where all the money is. That's where all the land is. That's where land access is. That's legitimately where we have to fight to this day for literally 6 acres of water just to build a treatment facility in Adams County just to address PFAS. And if it means going toe to toe because I know litigation and mitigation, then so be it. So that's the type of work that I do.
Did I speak the truth or not? You know, I forgot. I wanted to thank you, the interpreters who are working for us today. So it's very nice. It's great to have you here. So thank you. Okay. There's no talent between holding a microphone and trying to sign when you haven't signed in 20 years. You know what, I wanted to talk a little bit about, so it was Renee who came up with this topic about speaking about community, and we highlight that unity part, and we're talking about the reparations, the restoration of, so we talk about reciprocity, right? Reciprocity is that practice of engaging, of exchanging things between each other, right, for a mutual benefit. The core value for Her Many Voices is whatever I do for another, I do for myself. This is something that my mother instilled in me at a very young age. My mother is 97 years old today. She's as active as they come. She lives independently in New York City. And she will keep me on my toes every single time. She also made it very clear to me, Alicia, whatever you do to another, you do to yourself. This is reciprocity. This is reciprocity. So I remind myself every single day of my thoughts, my words, and my actions. And they don't always work, they don't always gel together, right? I can have all the thoughts in the world, oh man, I'm gonna kill that person right now. And yet, I am kind in my words and my actions because I have to be. Whatever I do for another, I do for myself. Whatever I do to another, I do to myself. And when it comes to the thought of restoration, so with restoration, it's an action of returning something as close to its original self, right? Its original state. And sometimes that's returning it to, Webster's will tell you it's to the owners, the original owners. I would say it's the original stewards. We are not the owners. We cannot be owners of the land. We cannot own Mother, right? We are a part of her. We are not an owner of her. So I'm reminded within this topic when Renee, you said, hey, let's call it this. This, it spoke to me. It was just that really big spark within me. And I recognize that in the unity, it's about joining forces. I gotta tell you, I'm kind of hesitant about speaking in certain areas, certain places. I have my personal feelings about certain areas and how it's been treated. And although it's good intent oftentimes, you know, there's the end result. And so when Lori reached out, what I recognize is that there was an instant trust. And that's about community for me. It's that trust factor. Lori said, hey, listen, and I'm talking about Lori Rich, right? She's the director for Children in Nature Network. She does a fine job. And so Lori said, hey, listen, we recognize, you know, people who talk about the land acknowledgement and we state that, and there's so much more to it, but what? What do? We need to do something. And as somebody who's not Indigenous, she was reaching out to say, hey, listen, we know that there's something missing here, but we have to take an action in some way, shape, or form, and we need that guidance. And truly, that guidance. And I have to say, every suggestion I made to you, you said yes, thank you, and you followed through. That does not happen often. So thank you to you, the rest of your staff. Thank you, Sarah, for even starting this to begin with, because that is what the whole reciprocity and restoration, that is where it starts. It starts with that trust. It starts with that relationship. Too many times, I've heard lip service. People come to us and they want to know about Indigenous peoples, and recognizing we are less than 5% of the world's population, and yet we have the responsibility of 80% of tending to mother. Think about that. We also have no funds, and our lands have been taken from us. And what has been remained is oftentimes destroyed. I grew up in New York City. I spent a lot of time going either upstate or visiting my family down in North Carolina. When I grew up, I would go to the stream, I would go to the river, I could drink the water. I cannot do that today. It breaks my heart that my children were not able to do that. We're talking 50, 60 years later. There is so much that has changed over this period, and so much that can be restored. We have lost a number of species along the way, yes, but there is so much more that we can do along the way. I think about when we share what we have, the knowledge that we have, that's medicine, right? That's medicine. Listen to your elders. They have medicine for you. Sometimes we want to dismiss them. They're old, they don't know what they're talking about, they lost their train of thought. Well, guess what? They've got a lot of medicine to offer. Listen to that. And I recognize for myself, I take some steps back. It's kind of like you watch people who walk in the sand, right? And they leave the imprint of their foot behind. And I think of my ancestors. And sometimes I just step back in what I feel are their footprints, because I need that reminder, I need that knowledge, I need that wisdom that they have to offer. And when we make known what is sacred in our lives, and our land, our mother is sacred, that is healing. So we have the potential to heal a tremendous amount of the damage and the wounds that we have created with Mother Earth. We have that within us all. Is it okay with you if we do a little exercise? Okay, so I know some of you are from out of the States, but there is a show here that's fairly popular. Whose line is it anyway? Okay, all right, I get the laughter, so we've got a few people who are aware of it. How many people are feeling like silly, courageous, something? Oh, look at that, there's not only one hand in the whole thing. Come here. Yeah, yes, come on up. All right, now you have forced me. You really forced my hand in this. I want our Mother Earth, Mother grounded kind of women, or men, who identify within that female side of them, to come on up. Actually, we'll come down here, since there are going to be a couple of us. Yes, I'm picking you people out of, right? My ladies, who I just spoke to a moment ago, who introduced themselves, will you stand with me? I'm not going to ask you to do anything embarrassing, I promise. My daughters, on the other hand, will be prepared to be embarrassed. Okay, thank you. All right, who are my Mother Earth, that grounding kind of people? Oh, there you are. Okay, Giselle, come on over here. We're going to have Renee over here, we're going to have you guys over here. You know what, we're going to stay kind of in between around here. All right. Are you feeling pretty maternal today? Okay, ladies, come on over here. I would like to have a little group. You are representing Mother Earth. Do you know that our mother is 4.6 billion years old? 4.6 billion years. She has been doing all sorts of amazing, wonderful things. Why don't you guys kind of create a circle and kind of be within yourself and be the power? You have that influence, you have that power, you have that nurturing. And Chanel, I'm pulling you out because you're not that old. Get over here. My child. Yeah, I know. Yes, this is that future mother over here. All right, so we have all of this beautiful power here for 4.6 billion years. Now, we're going to scale that down. We're going to say that it's 46 years old, right?
Should we like move?
You can move around,
Should we like rotate?
you can do some energy, you can show yourself as powerful, fierce, whatever it is. As mothers, as Mother Nature, this is who we are. You're 46 years old. Here's the timeline. We have, over the years, we have all sorts of old forest growth, right? We're going to have Lori. She's going to be here as that old forest growth. And she starts just around here, that 46 years ago. She is strong, she is powerful, she is in it, yes. She is part of that whose line is it anyway? Do we have any more trees here? Do we have any more? Come on down, come on down. All right, so 46 years ago, Mother starts and she creates. She's creating the old forest. She's creating all of the rivers, the trees, the rivers, the forests. This is all old growth. You feel her heartbeat?
There's one thing that Earth doesn't move.
Yes. This is 4.6 billion years. We've scaled it to 46 years. Here's our timeline. We have all of the old growth. They're doing all of their work, their beautiful work. Then we come all the way down here, and at about 4 hours ago, people showed up, right? And we started, not so bad. We grunted a lot, right? Yes, we did one of these things, yes. We haven't hit that point yet, but you're coming. See, this is the issue. Let's move fast. So we're at 4 hours. The people pop up. They're building their fires. They're still in touch with nature. They have an appreciation for the forest and the rivers and the trees and Mother because of all that she has given us for so many years. And then 1 minute ago, the Industrial Revolution showed up. And with it came, we had electricity, not a bad thing, right? The telephone's not there yet. Yes. That's like in the last 3 or 4 seconds. But we had this energy that we experienced, right? And it was good in the beginning. We thought it was a positive thing because it made so many things easier for us. And then we decided we would start drilling into Mother. And we took her oils, and we took her coal. And I do have to say, we only killed off about half of our forest. So we need a resurrection of at least a couple of them. There you go. Okay. So we still have a little bit of the old growth left, but we're down to 50%. And that's only because out of 46 years, in the last 4 hours, humans thought we knew better than Mother. And reciprocity is about that exchange, right? We didn't do an exchange. We kept taking. This is what happens when we continue to take. You all know that. And you're here because you understand reciprocity and the importance of giving back. Because this is not just for ourselves. This is for, as my daughter will say, our future ancestors. If we start working now with our little industrial complex friends, we join forces, we can do things that are very healthful and helpful for our environment and for our mother. And we might not get the entire old growth up. They might need a little support, but we can do a lot of restoration. This is the kind of education that we need to pass on to our children. Because I gotta say, I often talk to younger people and the anxiety that they are experiencing is overwhelming. They need to know we will work together, we will come together for the benefit of all, for their future and their children's and their children's. This is what Mother is calling for us. And she is strong, but she's tired. And yet, in that exhaustion, she continues to give us life in every way possible. We need to make sure that we give back and we nurture her as much as she has nurtured us for 4.6 billion years. There is no planet B, regardless of what we are trying to do out there. Okay? Now is the time, this is the place, and we all have the ability to do it. And one of the things that I am so appreciative here is I look around at the diversity of faces who came together here for this moment. That is what's needed. There's a lot of separation in this world. But we are not here to be separate from. We are a part of. We are a collective. We are a unit. And if we do not work together, we know what happens. Every time we think that we know better than Mother Earth, what do? We do some more damage. There's more. But every time we come together and we plant a little seed, and then someone comes and they water, and someone else comes and they tend, there is so much beauty we get to offer for those who will follow us. This is what community, I love my trees. Community and my old forest growth and my, you know what? I'm not even mad at the Industrial Revolution. Okay? He looks good. I do understand, I do notice that out of the Industrial Revolution, this is the only male up here. Why is that, guys? Huh? Why is that? So it is something that we need to acknowledge. We all need to come together and join forces. I truly believe that Children in Nature Network is a gift to us all. We need to cherish this. We need to pass it on to our children. Tell the younger ones what you experienced today and this week. And come back again next year. These things are so important to our survival. I want to thank my timeline here. They did a beautiful job, did they not?
Yeah! Woo!
I wanted to point out too, Mother Earth kept going.
She did.
We're always told, and I get this a lot from the apathy and helplessness of youth. Well, what do I care? What it's gonna keep going without me. An Indigenous thought is, it's not supposed to. You're supposed to be part of it. You're supposed to reclaim, and the part of restoration or community over competition is to recognize you're part of this circle. Yeah, she can go on without you, and yeah, she's your mama. But she wants you here. She loves you enough still to clean your air, still to produce food that's your medicines, still to have made you to give you medicine to bring here. So I'm really grateful for the youth here because you came to help us. And I'm grateful for your ability to already kind of foresee that We might have something you need, and you have something we need, and that's community over competition.
So give a good hand to our participants on our timeline. Thank you all so very much.
Yeah!
Did we lose socks or, oh no, this is a glove. We need to warm up a little bit. She's cold, okay? Feel the heat. You're like, good. Yeah, I was thinking last night, and I have to say, I kind of stole that. I have a friend of mine in the Netherlands, Tom Wheeler. Tom has a foundation, it's called Sinche Foundation, and although he is not Indigenous, he has been working with people from the Amazons for many, many years, and they are protectors. And he works with Chief Dada in the Amazon. And they just released their new project. It's called Treesistance, and they talk about this. They talk about how the mother is 4.6 billion years old, and here's the timeline. And let's break it down. And we've been here for a heartbeat. And look at what we have done. Again, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? So I thought it was really important to pass that on. It seemed like this was the appropriate space for it. And I want to say, you know, for young people, I know that there's a lot of anxiety around the state of affairs today. And what do we get to do? I believe it was Montana. Let me double check. This happened, yes, it was just this week. 16 Montana youth are suing the government right now. Because, yes, they need to be acknowledged, yes. And this kind of lawsuit, it's the first of its kind, and it's about deciding whether the state's contribution to climate change violations its constitution, which explicitly guarantees a right to clean and healthful environment, right? So young people, and we're talking out of the 16, they range, I believe it's ages, the eldest is 19, the youngest is 5 years old. Yeah. So when you feel like your voice is not heard, trust me, it is. You just have to be present and show up. It's kind of like the one vote that put Renee in the place that she is in today, right? So we have that strength, we have that power within us. We just have to show up and we have to voice. Sometimes it's going to be a whisper. Sometimes we're going to have a megaphone. But regardless, you speak. And you speak for the voiceless oftentimes. Did you want to share something? And I know we have some Q&A in a little bit. Yeah.
I don't know how we cannot talk about restoration at this point when all of us have plastics in our blood. I don't know how all of us cannot talk about restoration when mental health issues is the worst it's ever been. I don't know how we can all not talk about rematriation and reanimation and reclamation of our lands and our biosphere when it's high tide. It's overdue of recognizing rights of nature. One of the things that my elders always told me was, you have no more right to live than that tree. You need to be able to take care of its soil, its air, and its water. And when you look at it as alive, you're gonna see the relation to it. And it was like that ever since I was a little kid. I've been really lucky to be culturally privileged around my communities, but it was when I lost them that I realized how much of a privilege it really was. I work a lot in policy spaces that I have to talk about health and safety and body counts often, actually. When we're going against the industrial complex of cost-benefit analysis. It seems so inhumane. And I have to be honest that part of our restoration is developing an emotional intelligence about ourselves. Being able to look at yourself with trauma sensitivity. Being able to look at yourself with cultural sensitivity and responsiveness. Another thing my elders always told me was colonizers colonize themselves first. And we are all colonized and colonizer at this point. And that's why we have these conversations now. Restoration isn't necessarily just to go and have a savior complex about something. It legitimately means to look inside yourself to see, how am I treating myself every day? The first thing I ask, and it's okay if I do one more exercise really quick. It's just a quick question one. Is that okay? Okay. How do you interact with your environment every day? How do you legitimately touch your elements every day? I'll give you an example I always use, and I use it because it's what my mother used to use when she used to do speeches ages ago. I wake up every morning and I get a glass of water. And I don't care if I had a bad dream or a bad day before or whatever it was, I put all my intentions in this glass of water. And I tell my 2 sons to do this. So when they wake up or they have a nightmare, they go and get themselves a glass of water and they reset themselves. And that's immediately what I taught them is, your first medicine is breath. Breathe through what you're going through, you're gonna be okay. But the second one is water. Be able to connect to your element immediately. That's one of our first medicines. And they still do this. I remember my son, he came home and he actually busted his hand in baseball just the other day. He goes, I need water. And for him it worked. He was able to, like afterwards, he was able to chill out. It was a sprain, it wasn't a fracture, he was okay. But it's just being able to reset through our medicine and to also recognize you have medicine, but you also have weakness. And you need to be able to see yourself as not a superiority, because you're always taught in that paradigm, frankly, the settler colonialism paradigm. But to pull yourself back and know your circle and your place and your lane, frankly. Have that humility. Know what you don't know and know when to step back. And even if you do know a lot, you might not be the one to say it. And you need to step back and give it to those that deserve it. Don't hijack that. Don't steal that. We call it palabra in what we're in danza. You can give your own, but don't ever stand in front of somebody else's fire. So I try to translate a lot of these forms of sensitivities in state and federal agencies when they lack this emotional intelligence. I try to translate a lot of these sensitivities when they themselves make us come and have to tell our story about environmental racism over and over and over again. It's actually really traumatizing once you do it so many times. So that's the first place if we're really gonna start at restoration and rematriation and restorative justice, is how are you honestly looking at yourself first? How do you treat your loved ones? How do you treat the femme identity and trans identities around you? How do you treat the males around you? Actually, one of the worst things I really see, to tell you the truth, is male identities do not have a safe space. They do not have a place to go to deal with aggression and conflict and, frankly, patriarchy, because patriarchy kills men first. And it's looking at that and being able to assess. I'm not talking about just masculine. I'm talking about men being able to be life givers. That doesn't necessarily mean you have a baby. That just means that when you come into a space, you take care of the other generations around you with that strength and compassion. So it's that aspect of your duality. Every single day I ask that you question. So the first question is, how do you touch your environment every single day? So I will go section by section, and I'll start at this section first. How do you interact with your environment every day? Anyone that feels brave to raise your hand? Ingrid.
For me, it's fresh air. When I wake up, I always open all the windows, no matter how hot it is.
What do you do with you?
I do that whenever I get sick. I should just getting outside, fresh air.
If you did not hear that, she was talking about every morning she wakes up, she opens the windows. It's about fresh air for her. That is a part of how she connects.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Please.
Sure. I have a 6-year-old and left big art and it's spring peas.
every day. Just going out and grazing in the garden.
This gentleman is talking about he's out in the garden with a 6-year-old. What a beautiful thing, because we get to pass that knowledge on to the next, right?
One more from this section, please.
Mine is Bennett and morning light, that first dawn, the white light. We read that prayer. Midday is the turquoise universe. Evening is the yellow dawn in the evening. Night is the night. We also pray in those 4 times of the day, and we call it that the net flag. That's our flag. That's our color.
Thank you.
You just struck me to heart. Please, Tommy.
I find a lot of peace. Sometimes I stress a lot in my day with work and everything. Sometimes it's just nice to step out and look at the sky. There's just something about the sky, the way the clouds roll. Even up here, to walk among the clouds, there's just something about the sky that has, for me, a relationship with the earth that I find peace and calm in knowing that there's something there that we can all share. And I like to step out, the day sky and the night sky, the stars, yeah.
Thank you. Please, Fred. You go. Yeah.
We have acreage in Texas, and actually I'm getting emotional. I haven't even started talking. It's difficult to see your land and water contaminated, sink, because of what the people around you are doing. And but something that helps heal is going out and seeing how the other animals are living on the land, how the plants are living on the land, how a tree that got broken in a storm, it has new green. And so even though we know our land has issues and it's very heartbreaking, we can also find solace in the land as well, and hope to keep working and helping it as much as we can. And I apologize for being so emotional.
No apologies needed.
Thank you. This section.
Oh, sorry. I called Shirley, sorry.
Oh no, sorry. I went to
No, sorry. So one of the first things I do in the morning, I will go outside and take my dogs out, go potty and whatever. I will go and I've got some raised garden beds that I've recently planted, and just being out in the sunlight and touching the plants and talking to them. I go out, 4 or 5 times a day, and I've noticed the last couple days that I've been checking them, of me talking to them and all this beautiful rain, that every couple hours they look bigger. And it's weird because I'm like, no way they've grown like, a couple millimeters. But I've been taking pictures, I've been seeing it, And another thing is that we are teaching our youth to, at Spirit of the Sun, to work with mycelium. And so the last couple of days, one of my first things in the morning is going and talking to them about mycelium and learning about that. And them, like 13-year-old kids, talking to me about mycelium is just out of this world at 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, how are you even alive right now? I'm still waking up, but how are you? Yeah, it's very healing. So I'm just,
That's beautiful. I'm not a proud mom at all right now.
Thank you. This
My first experience with nature is when I first started walking. And when I first started walking, that's when I realized how much cars have taken us away from nature, driving all the time to, different places. And so when I really started getting into walking, I actually start connecting with the air, the sun, the clouds, the birds and the trees. Everything became alive to me. I actually felt that. And so it was just awesome. And so now when I go on walks, sometimes you don't always want to hear, music. Sometimes you just want to hear the quietness of nature. And so that's just something that I see.
Thank you. In red with the mask.
To expand on the walking, one of the first things I do is get up and go outside and go on my morning walks. And what I love about that is being able to pause and really just take it from so the goal is to walk. It's to actually go out and pause and see the world. And I think that's like such a beautiful way to pay attention and to give plants and animals space. And that's helping so much to spirit.
One more, please. Blue, you're first.
I live in Costa Rica, and nice there, the weather, and I get in the morning, and for the swimming, first thing I would say was to do the insects in the pool. So starting.
Thank you. Thank you all. Yourself. You guys are so refreshing to me because it's easy to work with a group that loves the earth. I'm sorry, I'm so used to dealing with spaces that it's quite a battle. So thank you for being my medicine right now. And I'm grateful that you see for yourselves too how much we're alike. How much that when you look at the biosphere, it's a form of grounding, it's a form of prayer. When I mean prayer, I mean intention. The minute you wake up, that intention of what you want for the day, or like go through the routines or seasons of your day, what you intend for it, the grounding, the air, literally the ability to be happy in this space, enjoy with you and our plants. Honestly, you have some happy plants, Genoa. That's what that sounds like if they're growing that fast. And then the ability to know that we all walk this earth. We are all still walking on our ancestors right now. We're all gonna go back to this earth. It's incredibly important to know, because our state and federal agencies still don't know, that restoration is natural. Extraction and just extraction is unnatural. So our ability to see how we restore ourselves is going to be key, because it's psychocultural. It's the ability that the minute you see it there, just like they told me when I was little, you're gonna see that tree breathe one day. If you sit there long enough, you'll see a whole forest breathe, and you'll see it's alive. That's why I love so much. The minute I fell in love with the earth when I was a little kid, that was it for me. I was down for the brown, and I was gonna do yours.
I recognize one of the things that I have to do today is I have some body issues. I have to listen to the wisdom of my body when it says, get up and move, Alicia, otherwise you're gonna be frozen in time for a bit. So, one of the things I want to acknowledge before we do, one of the things I want to acknowledge is the fact that we stand here on Ute and Arapaho Original Peoples land. The other day I went into town, and there is what you see, right? You walk around and you go, wow, it's beautiful, right? You see this, you see the beauty of it. But I also recognize we have to ask ourselves, what are we feeling? And for me, when I ask myself that, I am in commune with nature. I experience what the rivers and the trees and the plants and the other forms of nature are experiencing, what they are feeling, and the rocks. And so the other day I was in town, and I have to tell you, I was welled up because of all of the jackhammering and all of the things that were happening, and I could feel the pain of our grandfathers we don't pay attention. We see only what we want to see. But I would ask that you spend that time, like each and every one of you shared, spend that time to really experience what you are feeling, what nature is feeling around you, because they are expressing in that feeling what is going on for them. So what might be convenient, beautiful, exciting for us might be very counterintuitive for the rest of nature. So please keep that in mind. And an acknowledgement of those who have come before and the stewards, the original stewards of this land for thousands and thousands of years. I don't know of any Ute people who live in Estes Park today. Are there any here, Ute people who live in Estes Park? No. Remember that. Remember what this land was like for thousands of years prior to us coming in, bulldozing, and taking over and control. And I would also ask, for those who identify as Indigenous peoples, please stand. I want to thank my siblings, because we are the ones that pass on to the next generation. Like I said earlier, we represent about less than 5% of the world's population. And it seems like even within this room, that is the case. And yet we hold the responsibility of 80% of mother's protection. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. We desperately need you to do what you know innately to do. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. And for our non-Indigenous family, our siblings, thank you for being here and showing the way for yourself, for your own family, for your children, for your community, because we desperately need you. I thank you all. I think Lori said we had some Q&A.
Can we get a round of applause?
Woo! That was amazing.
This has been my great, honor doesn't even cover it. I feel so lucky and privileged to have worked with you for the past year, and I am looking forward to many, many years of friendship and connection and community. So thanks to you both. So we're at the YMCA, and things don't always go as planned in the mountains, and so we told everyone to use Huva for Q&A, and then I realized as I was sitting in that front seat that there's not a lot of Wi-Fi reception here in this theater. So we're going to do it old school. We're doing things on the fly, and I'm just going to run and get my steps in. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hand. Don't be shy. Let me make sure this is on. Testing. Did I see a hand go over here? The audience? Okay, great. Raise it high. Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, I'm in the communications area of my nonprofit, and both of you are such amazing speakers and obviously are very good with messaging. Specifically, Renee, you talk with a lot of how you put it, maybe audiences that don't care as much as the audience you're in here. How do you deal with messaging and narrowing down what you're talking about, these really, important topics, because there's so many important things that you're trying to speak on? How do you build your messaging to get your point across to these audiences that maybe don't care as much as the one here?
I've never been asked that question before. That's a really good question. One, I like being inflammatory, so I like pissing people off, actually. It works really, really well. We did a front page spread against the governor ages ago. And we put Suncor that they were aiding and abetting criminal behavior by allowing certain trucking companies, like especially here at Estes Park, on the way to Boulder, there's what's called the last bus stop. And my auntie actually went missing there, and many aunties and cousins have. And we've been talking about it for years, that this is one of the key points that women are trafficked. We know that women are trafficked. And every time we bring it up, people would always give us this like apathy, well, what do you want us to do about it? I was like, fine. So I went around them in a sense, and we put for like 3 weeks a big page spread calling out the governor, the CEO of Suncor, and anyone else we wanted to put on there. So I remember at the time it was Las Animas River was polluted all the way down to New Mexico, that indigenous farmers lost a lot of their land. We would put that in there, and we put, you're aiding and abetting criminals, you're doing this and this, so it was inflammatory. And the more we kind of started stirring the pot, I gave them a spoon, the more we got attention. And the minute I got their attention, that's when we hit them with actual data. There's already so many known issues about particulate pollutants. There's already so many known issues about sex trafficking, not just in indigenous communities, but many people of color communities too. And when we use the same methodology, we had already done a lot of community outreach. That's why I say I never speak for myself. If you see me talking about something that's very specific, I went through a lot of avenues to speak and take a very well-educated guess on it. That had to do with data. I work with a lot of other nonprofits to help us with surveys. One of them was like the South Platte River. They initially used to say there was 35 particulate pollutants in it. Now we found numbers of 84. So things like that, to where I come with facts. So that when they're already to the point that I know I've pissed them off, I know we're about to have a toe-to-toe conversation, that's when I know there's actually gonna be learning. You might not like me, but what I said is true. You might not like me, but what I said actually hurts my community past your cost-benefit analysis. And if you are any form of a representative that holds communities, you have to have my civil rights and health and safety as priority. And I keep them there. So they might not like me, and most of the time they don't, but it's being able to be fiercely compassionate. I'm fierce when I'm up there, but I'm compassionate and understanding who I'm representing and why. And I have to check in with those communities constantly. So one is, do your research and already make those connections first so you have them there to back you so you're not alone out there. And most of all, stir the pot, honestly. Be confrontational. Conflict, in my opinion, the best thing I ever heard yesterday, actually, like 2 days ago at a conference, conflict is my love language.
Again, my future president, Renée Chacon.
Any other questions from the audience right here?
So,
I started really thinking about this after I saw a documentary called The Condor and the Eagle. I don't know how many people are familiar with that, but look it up. And I was thinking in Texas, you know, I'm not Latino, I'm not Indigenous, but that movie got me really thinking, so many Latinos in Texas, a huge population. And because we do not really have Latino history in schools in Texas, I think most would not even think that they are Indigenous. Many of them have a lot of Indigenous blood in them. And the Indigenous voices that we do have are so loud and so powerful. And I think about this army of Latino Indigenous people that we have in Texas that we're not tapping into and lifting up to be able to help all of the environmental atrocities we have going on in Texas. And I'm just wondering if you know, are there any organizations that are kind of intentionally reaching out to Latino populations and teaching them history, you know, where they came from, that they have Indigenous blood, many of them, not all many. Is there anything like that going on?
In Texas?
Anywhere.
Oh yes. Actually, in Texas, my mother-in-law, she started a nonprofit called Texas Tribal Buffalo Project. They connected one of the original 45 herds from Edward Ironclad III all the way down to the Lapanapache Reservation. She's mixed, she's also a danzante, and she's mixed Chicana and, we don't say Latino very often. And the reason I'll say Latino really quick, so just so you know, this is quick context, as an educator, I always have to do this. Latino is a homogeneity of still kind of a settler colonialism of mixed indigenous and South American tribes already. So Latino, they do not speak Latin. And it is also a way to Columbicize a lot of the, specifically in my opinion, a lot of those indigenous communities. So even identifying immediately as Latino, I always ask people, if you don't know your indigenous cultural identity, who are your grandparents and where did they come from? Start with something to at least know your cultural identity. It could be in food, it could be in your connection to land, it could be in the subtle ways that they hit it, and go there. For danza, we hit it in our danzas, we hit it in our songs. So those type of connective circles are helpful for specifically central and mixed communities. But the way that I appreciate my mother-in-law does it is she started with legitimately bringing back and restoring the land. She went to the indigenous tribes that were already there, the Lapanapache, she's mixed herself, and was able to build those connections, be able to not hijack their narratives or speak for them. Like we already mentioned here, I'm on Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho land. These are their homelands, these are their origin stories. So it's learning those origin stories of those tribes, being able to have and support reclamation for those tribes that come back to their homeland. I know that sounds like a lot of work, but that's the work that it's gonna have to take. And then being able to connect. It takes a lot more than just going to them and asking, that's abstracted. But it's more going to them and offering, how can I be reciprocal in bringing you back? But I also wanna learn my identity that's been stolen from me. How can you help me connect to my indigeneity, which ultimately will help us connect to the biosphere. So it's the way that she did it, she still does a lot of, you can volunteer there, I can give you information. It's in San Antonio and Austin. I believe that they do a lot of projects, but there's a lot of spaces. In California, we've done all the way down the entire coast, the walk all the way down to the Hinosados, but literally a walk of where indigenous tribes were erased. And that's where a lot of the Peace and Dignity Run also runs through too, of the Eagle and Condor. And you can go to, I can connect you at least to the Danza Azteca spaces, that they try to first connect you to whose homelands you are on, and how you can connect to your indigenous cultural identity, even if you're from Polish descent, or Irish descent, or Russian descent. But we just ask you to not hijack that narrative. So don't take from that community, be able to learn your own. Did that kind of help?
Yes, knowing that organization to look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and aside from organizations that are out there, I would say we hold our families, our elders accountable. I know from my family, my father is first generation American. When his parents came, they were told by their parents, your name is no longer Estefan, it's Stevens. You will never speak another word of Spanish, you only speak English. You are now an American, and that's all that matters, right? And so what does that do to us? We degrade who we are, and we lose our identity. So for me, it was being able to look at them and go, I need to hold you accountable kind of thing, and ask, well, why? Why did you deny who we are? You know, I need to understand that story. I need to understand that narrative so I can recognize what I can pass on in the future to others. You know, so you have that within yourself too, to speak to your elders, to find out, or at least the members of the generation, if your elders are gone, you know, members of the generation, can you please explain this to me? And then you have more of a story, you have more of an understanding, you get to hold on to more of who you are and your heritage. So I would suggest that, as well as, yes, we can reach out to different organizations, and that's important, very important. But claim who you are again. Because for many of us in this country, you got washed out. True.
Any other questions? I promise I'll go upstairs, but it seems to be a lot down here. Renee, you spoke on kind of how we are traumatized every day by the systems and those around us. I'm wondering, how do you work towards that cultural sensitivity, and how do you stay trauma-informed and act on it? And also, thank you for being the reason why I'm here today. Thank you to Children in Nature Network and the Women from the Mountain for offering scholarships for BIPOC youth. Thank you so much.
If you can, that could be what you gave it. It's that. It's also knowing that it's a multi-generational undoing and inclusion. I do not know everything, nor will I ever claim to know everything, and I constantly love to learn. I read a lot, but I always tell people this is very traumatic when you go in a lot of litigation spaces. If you've ever been in policy making or lobbying, if you've even just testified at different commissions or boards, tell your story, but don't let anyone take from you your dignity. A lot of times we do get tokenized or used as window dressing. Oh, can you come and talk about cleaner and healthy water and give a land acknowledgement? But they don't want to actually know what happens in our community about certain things like that. It's that. I try to take hold of that and make sure that I'm not used or misused in that space. But I also don't want to misuse others. Sometimes I'm not the one to say it. Sometimes I have to step back. I have to make sure that there's others that are able to speak about how their communities have been redlined, how their communities are constantly harmed. And it's that community over competition. Trauma-informed really means to be trauma-aware of yourself, where you could be traumatizing. So I try really hard not to be traumatic to myself, so that I can also have that foresight to not be harmful to others at all. So I hope that, I guess it's humility, stage yourself a lot, soak your feet a lot, and be able to, like, self-care, you're not gonna self-care your way out of it. Like, there's so many ways that, yeah, you can take care of yourself through these spaces, but you need to have a network of people that come and check you. And you legitimately need to have a network of people that also see perspectives you're not seeing, so that they can fill in what you don't know or what you should not be able to say. And you make it a little less traumatizing, and you're not gonna fix all of the aspects of it, but the thing that, even why I hold the summit, the best you can do is to clean and protect your space, and start small. Clean and protect yourself, clean and protect your family, clean and protect your community, and clean and protect those spaces. You're not gonna fix every trauma, you're only a human being, but you can make those spaces that you're around a little safer.
Unfortunately, I think that means we're at time. We went a little bit over, but Renee and Alicia will be here for the conference. So if you have other questions, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer them for you. Can we have another round of applause? Thank you.